Welcome in to the FTN College Hoops Betting Show. We are back again. I'm Mike Randle. Follow me on Twitter at Randle Rant. Here at FTN, we're going to give you three shows a week. We gave you one on Monday. We skipped Wednesday because the slate was a little smaller. Today, we have another robust slate on Thursday, and we will come to you each and every Saturday morning to go over the college hoops action. Now, remember to hit like and subscribe here on the channel. We're going to continue at FTN Bets to give you fantastic content throughout the college hoop season. There is a ton to talk about, and a ton to talk about that happened last night. So for the people who are new, here's what we're going to do. We're going to review last night's action, hit a couple key points, go over some injuries, and then I will give you my favorite picks for today. I have nine picks that I like here across the college basketball slate. So let's go through it, get started. Start with last night. Last night roundup, folks, if you follow me on FTN Bets, that was a brutal beat for Wright State. Wright State getting 4.5, loses in double overtime to Davidson at home, 102-97. In fact, Davidson shooting free throws with 3 seconds left. If they had missed both, we would have had that nice cover. Just a brutal beat for Wright State, who came out, was leading by double digits for most of the game. Davidson came back here against Wright State, ended up covering by a half point. Davidson, under Bob McKillop's son, Matt McKillop, first game coaching for him. Longtime coach is retired for Davidson. Foster Lawyer, the guard that transferred from Michigan State, went nuts, 38 points, 5 threes. Senior Trey Calvin, equally as impressive for Wright State. He had 37 points, 3 threes, and 3 steals. Fantastic game, terrible beat. Whenever you're getting points and you're winning at the end of the game and it goes to not only 1, but 2 overtimes, nothing we can do about that. Big win for Davidson. Wright State lost by just a half point. South Dakota State had a nice bounce back against Boise State on the road, 68-66. This was after the Jackrabbits lost by 1 point to Akron to start the year. Only 7 of 18 from three-point range for South Dakota State, but 4 guys in double figures with that stifling defense on Boise from deep. That's that South Dakota State trademark. They do stifle you from beyond the arc. Worth noting here, Boise State senior guard Max Rice, he fell down in pain on the final shot. He was carried off. Boise State is saying it's just cramping, but it's something that is worth noting. There was no late game magic here. Boise State, Marcus Shaver, so fantastic in late game situations. 0 of 3 from beyond the arc. South Dakota State, big win, Mount West road win there against Boise State. James Madison blowtorched Hampton at home by 48. I love this JMU team under Mark Byington, head coach. They're now in the Sun Belt Conference. JMU, remember, they could not play in the CAA tournament last year because they were going to the Sun Belt. CAA voted that they shouldn't participate. Terrible rule. Really good team last year, but they are back. They're refreshed and replenished here, JMU, because they bolted out of that conference in the Sun Belt, and they started with a very impressive win, easily covering against Hampton. Bellarmine, 67-66 at Louisville. Cardinals are in trouble. They're going to have a struggling season. Not a lot of guys in the backcourt except for L. Ellis. I do want to shout out our own Mike Kutry here, who put that on an FTN Bets. L. Ellis prop over 10.5 points. Easily crushed that with 14. Had a 2-unit play for you here at FTN Bets. Nice job here by Mike getting us going. Justin Betts, I have to make a comment on this. Bellarmine gets the rebound. Louisville misses with about 5 seconds left. Bellarmine point guard Justin Betts throws the ball over his head blindly, rolls all the way to the back end line. I'm seeing on social media that's a great play. That is not a great play. First off, he didn't know where it was going to go out of bounds. Second of all, it could have had a defender behind him tipping him. They're only up 1 point. If he turned around, dribbles, saw the court, and then threw it all the way down the court, no problem. You do not throw the ball over your head blindly and let it bounce all the way to the back of the court. They ended up getting the ball, Louisville, with 1 second left. They did have to go the length of the court, but that's a risky play. It's like people who call aces all in with like pocket eights and say it was a great call. It was not a great play. It was a good idea, but let's face up, see the court here, Justin, before we fire it down court. Throwing it blindly over your head is never a good idea. Regardless, Bellarmine, 12.5 point underdog, closed probably around 11, but they were at 13 at one point. I think it opened 13.5, gets the outright win at Louisville. Now let's go to some injuries for tonight before we get into our picks. UMass at home against Towson. In many ways, this game and the Vermont St. Mary's game are the big games of the night. Matt Cross, junior forward, should be available for UMass. He had a toe injury, did not play in the opening win there, but he should be available tonight. Wyoming, Questionable game here for Wyoming. Brendan Wessel, leg guard, did not play in the opener. Should be available tonight against Nichols. It's going to be important for Wyoming because we want to see how the Cowboys are going to react against a decent opponent. Have Nichols State tonight without star forward Graham Ike. He's out 6 to 8 weeks with that lower leg injury. So Brendan Wetzel, veteran player, comes back from last year, can shoot the three for Wyoming. They're going to need him tonight against Nichols. Rutgers, Caleb McDonald, the do-everything guard for the Scarlet Knights. He's out tonight with a knee injury. That hurts Rutgers a little bit because they're a team that does rely on their defense, on the power of the team defense. McConnell is a stud. He does everything. He can score, he can shoot, he can steal, rebound. He is going to be out tonight for Scarlet. It does hurt them a little bit. Kansas starting point guard DeJuan Harris should be good to go against North Dakota State. He tweaked his knee but played through it. So DeJuan Harris should be able to go for Kansas. We'll get to that game a little bit later. No Bill Self. Remember, he's still suspended 3 more games. Concerned here about Kansas covering these big numbers, 9-10 non-conference last year against the spread. Kansas, that's with everything rolling. This year, of course, some questions. And finally, Notre Dame, Marcus Hammond joined the Fighting Irish from Niagara. Big-time scorer, Marcus Hammond, now with the Fighting Irish. Big score. He's out tonight against Radford with an MCL sprain. That's going to hurt Notre Dame, who has had some frisky non-conference games at home there. We always like Notre Dame as a home underdog in the ACC. That's where they're at their best, but non-conference always can be questionable. So here we go, folks. We're going to go through the games. A lot of interesting ones to go around. I'm going to start with the big two. The first one here is Towson against Massachusetts. Now, Massachusetts at home. Frank Martin left South Carolina, now at UMass. He's done a fantastic job there. He's giving pizzas out to the kids. He's getting a lot of energy going. We saw them here in the first game at UMass. Not great against Central Connecticut. That first half, very sloppy, a lot of turnovers, had 13 turnovers overall as a team. Now, they did pull away late, but in this game against Towson, I am going to go with Towson getting 2.5. This line has flip-flopped. It was UMass actually by 1. It's now UMass by 2.5. I think Towson even was favored for a little bit there. I'm going to take the points with Towson. I think it's a coin flip. Towson is the CAA favorites this year. Longtime coach Pat Skerry, incredible job, and they're usually very solid on defense. They have Division II Player of the Year, Siku Silla, who grabbed 9 rebounds as a guard. He's an aggressive guard for Towson. Opening win against Albany. Now, they look great against Albany. I understand that, but we have to be careful of the knee-jerk reaction in betting like we do in the NFL. Nick Timberlake, Jason Gibson, good shooters for Towson. They were only 1 of 8 for three-point range. I think we see some positive regression tonight. Frank Martin's team, they eventually pulled away, but they were sloppy. TJ Weeks, Noah Fernandez, 6 of 10 from deep for UMass. I don't think they do that against a well-coached and a solid Towson team. Wilson Levesque inside. He was okay. Isaac Conte, the big man who used to be at Hofstra, came over here from LIU. He played well off the bench, but I am going to end up going with Towson. It's a coin flip, folks. And if it's a coin flip game, I'm going to take the underdog plus 2.5. You want to go money line, that's fine too. I like UMass. It can be a very, very big home court advantage. I went to a game years ago at UMass when they played VCU. They had Chaz Williams as the point guard there. Derek Kellogg's coach. Loudest I've ever heard an arena, on-campus arena in my entire life. But tonight against Towson, who almost lost to Albany, maybe the juice isn't there as much. There were concerns. I believe in what Frank Martin's doing. I think UMass is going to be very, very live end of the year, but we're going to start by going with Towson getting now 2.5. You can get 3 on this. I would be thrilled because this is a team, Towson, that really wanted to make the NCAA tournament this year. They dominated the CA, but they struggled in the semifinals of the conference tournament. I think they're on a mission. They're well coached by Pat Skerry. I think they're going to get the job done tonight against UMass. Next up, another big game on the docket. Vermont versus St. Mary's. These are 2 exceptionally well-coached teams. I've got a chance to talk to John Becker a couple times. Love what he does with Vermont. This line is starting to trickle down, but we are going to go with Vermont getting 8 against St. Mary's tonight on the road. Now, St. Mary's had a good game against Oral Roberts, their first matchup there. But the concern here against St. Mary's is sometimes they can go a real long time without scoring. And you saw there against Oral Roberts that they let them back in that game. That was a game that they had well in hand at halftime. They ended up going and winning by 8, but they were up by pretty much double digits. And then they had a 23-11 10-minute quarter there, 10-minute half right after the intermission where they really struggled. 12 of 30 from three-point range, Oral Roberts did. I think Vermont can shoot it as well, and they're going to do a decent job. This is way too many points. Vermont has been in these situations over and over again in non-conference matchups, and we've seen them under John Becker do very well. They played at Maryland last year. They lost a close game. They won at Northern Iowa last year by 14. Then you saw a couple of years prior, they played at Virginia and almost won in the non-conference. They won at St. John's. They are very, very live. And if you want to go all the way back, we can go back to the 2017-2018 year where Vermont went down to Kentucky in Lexington and lost by 4 at Kentucky. They are very live in these non-conference matchups. I think they're going to keep it close. I think this is way too many points. I would not be surprised that a tip-off, you see this getting down to about 6 or 5 points. I am taking Vermont +8, and I think this is a very slow matchup here over and over again. So I think we're going to end up going with the under as well on 133 rather. Brown versus Colgate. You know, Colgate is the dominant team in the Patriot League. They have Keegan Reckers inside. They shoot the three, but they have struggled when they've gone against other teams that slow them down. What I see with Colgate, as I see with a Virginia is at their best when a team tries to press them and get them up and down. But even Virginia in their first game of this year, when you slow them down, that's where they're really struggling. They want to control the pace. Brown versus Colgate, when they go against other teams that will have good sets, similar offense, won't turn the ball over a ton, they end up struggling. So I am actually going to take Brown at home getting points here against Colgate. In their opening matchup with Brown, and I like them as well, Brown showed me something. And they in the Ivy League, these teams can really, really be interesting. They played at Vermont, who we just talked about. Brown kept that game close at home in Vermont against Vermont. Now we have Colgate, who goes and loses by 1 at Buffalo, at a Buffalo team that lost a lot. And then you've seen Colgate's history when they've gone against these Ivy League schools. Last year away at Cornell, they lose by 10. Last year away at Harvard, they lost by 5. Last year, Northeastern, another interesting team, lost by 5. Year before, they struggle sometimes when they get slowed down against these Ivy League teams. And I think you're going to have a Brown team that has a good amount coming back, that can shoot the three. It's a decent home court advantage. Colgate now 2 road games in a row to start the year. They're better at home. I'm going to end up going with Brown, and I'm taking the points here with the home dog. Something I always like. If you're going to give me points in an early season matchup at home, I will take it every single time. Next up, Cincinnati versus Cleveland State. Now, this line, when we got it, was at 20. It was Cincinnati -20. It is now ballooned to 22, and I support the direction that it's going in. I think Cincinnati here is for real. I think they're going to have a real solid showing. Cleveland State, the argument for Cleveland State, they have a lot coming back and that they could be a team this year that brings a lot back and could find more offense. You know, Cleveland State, they're going to do it every season with their superb defense. But they don't have Dennis Gates anymore. They have Danielle Robinson. They ended up losing their first game by 4 points at home to Notre Dame of Ohio. So we're not even playing a Division I school. Now, a lot of people think that's going to be a bounce back. My argument is this. You're going up against Wes Miller's Cincinnati team that is always solid with their metrics. Last year, they were doing very well, Cincinnati, 14-5, 4-2 in conference. They got hit with some injuries, and they slowed down and struggled to end the year. But I believe in Wes Miller. Wes Miller for years was at UNC Greensboro, did a fantastic job. I believe in Wes Miller. I think that Cleveland State, with their offensive struggles, is coming into Cincinnati to play a team that is going to be every bit their equal on defense and can score it absolutely no problem. Cincinnati played Chaminade, David DeJulius, 24 points. Landers Nolly, big-time player, used to be at Memphis, 19 points. Jeremiah Davenport can hit from 3. He had 3 of 7 from three-point range, 19 points. Cincinnati will play just as good, if not better, defense than Cleveland State, and they can certainly score it. So I am going to lay the points here with Cincinnati at home against Cleveland State. No problem covering that because I don't trust the Vikings on offense. New coach, not Dennis Gates. Don't like this spot at all. Next up, who doesn't believe in Shaka Smart and what he's doing at Marquette and Fiserv Forum? Marquette, it was minus 19. Now it's down to minus 18. You know that Marquette is going to bring a lot of aggression. You know Marquette's going to get in those passing lanes, lengthy. Shaka has found a home here in Marquette, very similar to what he had at VCU. So I like Marquette here at home, again, laying a big number over a directional school. Always fun. Central Michigan. Marquette open at home against Radford. Radford is decent. 79-69, won by 10. Central Michigan here, first game of the year on the Chippewas under Tony Barbee, and they're going to go on the road at Marquette. I think they easily cover this. They win by about 25, 26 points. Central Michigan going to obviously play at their pace, but their metrics last year just god-awful on defense. Can't stop the three, pounded inside, not good on the boards. That is not great against a high-effort team like Shaka Smart's Marquette Golden Eagles. Marquette at home, I have no problem laying the points. We will lay those points here with Central Michigan. Maryland, Western Carolina. Now, look, I am well aware of Maryland's head coach, Kevin Willard, because he was at Seton Hall for many years. I know the type of game plan he's going to have. You're going to have a slower defensive battle. And because of that, I am going to go with the under. I had this at 141. It's now at 142.5. I like Maryland to keep this game low scoring because of the way they play. And I think Western Carolina is actually going to be very interesting here. I think Western Carolina is a team. They played Georgia. I like them against Georgia. I think depending on the number you got on our first show on Monday, you may have won that. If you got 13.5, you won it. They lost by 13. And the reason I picked Western Carolina is because I expected Terry Roberts of Georgia not to play. And he did play in that game, got them 8 points, 3 rebounds, did a nice job. Now they've played on the road at Georgia, which is an SEC school. They were down big. They actually closed that and ended up being only down 8 with about 10 minutes left. They're not going to be afraid here what goes on with Maryland. Maryland is going to play tough. Maryland's going to slow them down. Maryland's going to hit them on the boards. But I don't think Maryland is a team that's going to pull away. Western Carolina should be able to keep this game close. They keep this game at 141, only scored 55 points against Georgia. I think Maryland is a better defensive team than Georgia. I like what Kevin Willard does defensively. I'm not thrilled with what he does on offense, but I like what he does defensively. We are going to go with an under here, and you may be lucky because it may be up to 142, 143. You can hit that under. Couple games left. Kansas versus North Dakota State. Kansas has not been great covering spreads at home in the non-conference, even with Bill Self there. And if Bill Self is not there, which he's not, I am going to take North Dakota State getting 23 points here. Now could be 24 points on the road at Kansas. Self is suspended for the first 4 games. And what you have now is a North Dakota State team coming in. These teams have played before. North Dakota State is not going to be, under Dave Richmond, is not going to have problems here or be concerned. They had big games last year. They played Arizona on the road. They played UNLV on the road. They played Creighton away. They have played these teams before, and now they're staying relative same area against Kansas. Kansas, in their first matchup, did not cover the spread. Nebraska, Omaha. North Dakota State's a lot better than Nebraska. Omaha can shoot it as well. They didn't cover. I think North Dakota State can score here. I love a first half line for North Dakota State, and I have found when these big teams with these big head coaches like a Bill Self end up leaving and not being there, there is a little bit of a dip. It's 23. It's coming down a little bit. You can still find a 24 in some places. I'm going to take North Dakota State and the Bison on the road to hit some shots and keep this game close. You'd never know with Kansas. They can be a little sketchy. Only 9-10 against the spread last year, non-conference games at home. Virginia Tech versus Lehigh. Couple left here. Virginia Tech versus Lehigh. Justin Mutz should be back. He missed the first game. It is very difficult to play Virginia Tech on the road in their building. Now here comes Lehigh. Lehigh had their first game out of the Patriot League. They lost to Syracuse by 18 away. Virginia Tech is much better on defense than Syracuse. Playing at Virginia Tech is more difficult than playing at Syracuse, especially early in the season. And Mutz is going to be back. Virginia Tech blitzed Delaware State at home to start the year, 95-57 in that game, 14 of 28 from three-point range, and that was without Mutz. I see a huge game here for guys like Hunter Couture, Sean Padula, Darius Maddox, Grant Bassel inside has been fantastic. 6'9", 235. He had 30 points in that opening game against Delaware State. I don't think Lehigh State can stop Bassel inside. I don't think they can stop the three-pointers. And oh, by the way, Justin Mutz will be back here. So we are going to take Virginia Tech and easily lay those points against Lehigh. Last game we have here on the slate for you on a great Thursday slate. Little compact, not as much as we had Monday, but we have a lot of great games coming up on Saturday. Last one we're going with. Sometimes you have to take what happened in the first game and be concerned, like when Louisville lost their exhibition game. That was concerning. Sometimes you have to take what happens in the first game and completely throw it out the window. And that's what we're going to do here with Creighton. I am taking Creighton and laying the points with North Dakota State. I think this line is actually up to 30, and I have no problem laying the 30 either. Creighton, in many ways, was a Final Four team preseason that people liked, and for good reason. They have so many pieces back. They can shoot the three. They had a terrible first game to start against St. Thomas, 72-60 at home. In that game, Creighton only 8 of 34 from three-point range. Folks, if you've watched Creighton play at home, they are not shooting it at 34 from three-point range again. I think they're going to light up North Dakota here. North Dakota with a nice close win on the road at Incarnate Word. This game has the Blue Jays up 20-6 at right off the tip. They are going to shoot well. They're going to play better. Creighton is a team, so many veterans back, incredible shooters across the board. They just didn't shoot well. And they have Baylor Shireman, who came over from South Dakota State, Trey Alexander, Ryan Nemhort, Ryan Kalkbrenner inside Defensive Player of the Year in the Big East. This team should be ready to go. Arthur Kaluma is an NBA-like player. You see him right there on the beautiful graphic here by Fox for us here at FTN. I think Creighton comes out and lights the Nets up across the board. They were only up 2 with 10 minutes left against St. Thomas. I am going to throw that game out, and I'm going with Creighton and laying the points. So again, folks, across the board here with the games, Creighton laying the points against North Dakota State, Virginia Tech laying the points with Justin Mutz coming back against Lehigh, North Dakota State to keep it close against Kansas, which has shown a propensity not to blow out inferior opponents at home, Western Kentucky to stay competitive after the Georgia game against Maryland, Marquette, five-star form, lighted up for Shaka, defense against a directional Central Michigan team that does not have great metrics. Cincinnati at home. Cleveland State will excel when they can control tempo with their strong defense. Cincinnati is going to get right on them with Wes Miller as much as any other team will, and they can shoot it well. I think that'll be a blowout. Brown to keep it close at home against Colgate. And then the two games of the night, Vermont, John Becker on the road. And I love Randy Bennett, and I love what's going on with St. Mary's, and they could be a lot better. They absolutely could beat Gonzaga this year. They're always a pain there to Gonzaga. They've won on the road. They've won at home. They've ruined Gonzaga's undefeated season within the WCC sometimes, but I think 8 is too much. It's 7.5. I still like it there. If it got down to like 4 or 3, it's probably a stay away, but I think if it hovers around that 7 number, it's good. I'm taking Vermont with the points there. And finally, Towson plus 2.5. Some teams, that first game is a concern. Other teams, we throw it out the window. I know Towson struggled here the first game here against Albany, no problem. UMass, Towson, I'm taking the points. Wouldn't be surprised here to see Towson get the upset against a great team with Frank Martin that's doing a great job at UMass, but I think that's too many points in a coin flip game. Give me the points. Give me the underdog, especially if you want to go money line. That's what we got here for FTN Bets College Hoops. Check out all our great stuff that we have going on. FTN Bets for the College Hoops team, best in the business, and we'll be back Saturday morning to run through our first Saturday slate of the 2022-2023 college basketball season. Thanks, everyone.